Hello. All right, all right. Good evening. I want to welcome you specially to another time out with me. This is the 7 days challenge. It is the 7 days challenge, and then I'm super excited to be with you once again. I trust that you've been having a wonderful time, and then much more than that, you've been practicing the things that we have been teaching, right? I really want to believe that you have been doing that. I am really excited to be speaking and interacting with you again. So the 7 days challenge, and today is day six. Day six. And then on your screen is day six. Okay, I think I need to even do that adjustment because the five that is here. So let me quickly do that adjustment. It's the six and not the five, the six. Yeah. Okay. So I'm happy. I'm happy to be here again and remember the things we discussed yesterday. We talked about prayers and we talked about gratitude. We said that it is very important that we engage the power of prayers even in this season, because God is really all we need to have all our needs met. So we need to engage the power of prayers in this season, and also we need to be grateful, right? We need to embrace gratitude as well, because gratitude helps us to see the positives in the negatives. Okay, so today we would be okay, but let me just quickly show you. All right, so today we would be starting out we're talking about two very important things as well, and we'll be starting out with hope. We'll be starting out with hope. The Bible says that for there is hope for a tree if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that the tender branch thereof will not cease. Yet through the scent of water it will bud and bring forth boughs like a plant. Well, that's what the Bible says. And I want to really inspire hope today and make you understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? You need to be hopeful, right? I told you that day that the reason why a lot of people are depressed and end up committing suicide is because they get to a point of hopelessness, right? And hopelessness precedes suicide, right? But cluelessness precedes hopelessness, right? People have to get to a point where they don't know what else to do for them to not become hopeless, right? But if people can see that, oh, there is going to be a positive turnout of event, then it can inspire hope. And if there is hope, then they want to stay alive, right? A living dog, they say, is better than a dead lion. So you need to understand that there is hope. Even Jesus was said of him that he endured the pains of the cross because of the pleasure of the throne, right? He said, for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, right? So life works with what is called the pain and the pleasure principle, we are always moving towards what gives us pleasure and running away from what gives us pain, right? So we need to be able to see something pleasurable ahead of us in order to, to be hopeful, and in order to keep hope alive and be positive in this time and this season. And I want to inspire you. I want to inspire that hope tonight. I want to tell you that all is going to be well, right? And that's not just a cliche, because a peep into history tells us that there have been more deadly pandemics in the past, right? So we can find solace in the fact that there have been more deadly epidemics in the past, that ravaged the humanity. But then we came out strong, as we always do, because God created us in His image. I believe so. We always have a solution to any kind of problem that confronts us as humans, right? So this is not the first time that something like this would be happening to humanity. It's not the first time. A peep into history tells us that this has happened many times, and I will share some of them with you today. So for instance, in the 14th century, there was an outbreak of what was called Black Death. A pandemic that was called Black Death. This pandemic killed about 975 to 100 million people across Europe, right, in the 14th century. But today, of course, Europe is still right there. It means there's something wiped away. That means that we're able to overcome it, right? There was another pandemic or epidemic called Cocolizd, right? I don't know if I pronounced that properly, but the spelling is Cocolistli, Cocolizd, right? It killed 5 to 15 million people in Mexico between 1545 and 1548, right? It was known as the worst epidemic in the country's history. So this killed 5 to 15 million people, in Mexico, right? If we go further in history, you would also see that the cholera pandemic broke out between 1817 and 1824. Now, cholera is something that is very, very, very trivial right now, because there is a cure for it, and it doesn't kill as much people as it used to do, right? But it used to be a very serious pandemic between 1917 and 1924. That's about roughly about that's how many years? 1917 to 1924 would be 7 years, exactly 7 years. This killed over 15,000 people across Europe and Asia, right? And it still kills people. Cholera still kills people today. World Health Organization reports that cholera still kills 1.3 million people to 4 million people per year, every year, right? So if you go further down in history, you would also hear about or read about what the typhus outbreak. This killed over 20,000 people in 1948, right? Then there is the Spanish flu. I'm sure you must have heard about that. Spanish flu, also known as influenza, right? It is considered to be the most deadly pandemic in modern history, which took place between 1918 and 1920. It took the lives of 50 to 100 million people, and was considered a major factor in even ending the World War One, because around that time there was the World War One. So it was this pandemic that even brought peace, right, and brought some sort of agreement between the countries involved in World War One, right? So there are many others I could keep mentioning. HIV/AIDS, for instance, has killed a lot of people, millions and millions of people, in many years. And these are in fact, right now, a lot of experts have said that we cannot even consider the coronavirus as a major pandemic yet, because of the number of people that it has killed, right? I know this is serious, right? And we should take all the precautionary measures given by our government and given by medical practitioners. But at the same time, you should also understand that there have been worse things that have happened in the past, and this is not the first time. And every time this has happened, there have been scientists working on the ground to bring about or birth, the solution, birth or bring about, produce vaccines that would help in the cure of these diseases. Okay, so I want you to cheer up and understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and this COVID-19 would come to an end, right? And beyond the COVID-19, whatever situation you may be in right now, I want you to understand that you would come out of it, right? You would come out of it. You will come out of it, right? You don't have to give up. You don't have to give up on yourself. You don't have to give up on whatever it is that you are holding on to right now. Just keeping on and have hope for the future, because this is going to pass as well, right? It is going to pass as well, just like the others have passed. So if you're going through some form of hardship because of this, understand that it's going to pass. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Okay, so tough times never last, right? No situation they say is permanent. So you need to understand that life is transient. So a lot of things would happen, and a lot of things would come by, and a lot of things, would stop happening, and then new seasons would always emerge. So you need to understand that and have hope, and say to yourself, all is well, all is well. If you have seen Three Idiots, you understand what I'm doing. All is well, all is well, right? You need to tell yourself that and understand that this is a phase, right, in the world that would pass. And the funny thing, I was listening to Reverend Sam Adeyemi when he mentioned that when he mentioned that churches and other religious organizations like mosques, they were closed down during the influenza pandemic, during the Spanish flu pandemic. Churches were closed down as well. So this is not the first time this is happening. It's happened before, right? And that's one of the things you can do in times like this. Always, take a peep into history and check for what has happened. My mentor was sharing with me the model Catholics use, right? Catholics use a model. When they face a particular challenge, what they do is to first of all make sure that they search, into history, go into history to search if that has happened before. If it has happened before, then they check to know exactly how that particular thing was resolved. Then if it has not happened before, then they check into the future, try to think of solution and innovative ideas as to what to do about or go about that particular situation. Then it is when all of that doesn't work that they now go and pray about it, to say, okay, right now we have come to the end of ourselves and we need to pray about this. And that should be our approach, right? You should always, and like I said, vision would always inspire hope. When you have a vision for the future, then you know that whatever it is that is happening right now is only in the interim. Jesus, for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. So if you have a vision of where you are going to, you have a vision of where you would be in the next 5 years, next 10 years, and how things are going to turn out for you, then you would be hopeful. Then you would know that, okay, this is just a phase, right? So it is very important that at this point in time, you place your vision in front of you. Don't lose sight of your vision. Don't lose sight of the future, because the future is bright. I tell people that the future is so bright that we need sunshades to look at them. That's how bright the future is. And you should stay positive and you should be hopeful as much as possible, even in the season. That's my first challenge to you today. My first challenge to you today is to be hopeful. And you know what? In case you have, a very large amount of hope, if you have a good dose of hope, you want to extend that hope to somebody else. You want to inspire hope in other people in this season. You want to make them understand that this too shall pass. You want to, take them into history and show them how things like this have happened and how, they were resolved, right? And, you're just a click away. Many times a lot of people just suffer for nothing, when because the things you fear about, most of the things we fear about never come about. In fact, 85% of the things we fear about never come about, right? And that should inspire you to say, okay, a lot of things I'm afraid about would never come about. I know experts are saying a lot about what is going to happen post COVID, and some of us are already fearful. But be hopeful, don't be fearful. Okay, right? Do what you need to do, then leave the rest to God. Don't kill yourself to say, okay, what else can I do? And begin to run that scatter and begin to, lose hope of the future. Don't do that. Don't do that. A lot of experts have said it, but one of the things you must understand is, if these experts did not predict COVID-19, then how can they successfully predict what would happen post COVID? That's something you need to think about. I'm not saying that some of them might not be correct, but then you shouldn't put all your hope in them, right? You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that at all. Your hope should be in God. Your hope should be in your vision and in the future, that He holds for you. Okay. Then secondly, today we want to talk about innovation. We want to talk about innovation. Innovation. What does innovation mean? Innovation talks about creating and birthing new ideas. Talks about uh, advancing the cause of humanity, right? you know, um, um, the Bible says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, right? So God is a creator. That's one of His greatest attributes. Creativity is embedded in God. And the Bible also said that God created us in His image and likeness. So if you believe that we are created in the image and likeness of God, then one of the characteristics you should always exhibit is creativity, is innovation, because that is how we are wired. We are actually wired for innovation. We are actually wired for innovation, right? And that's why God created things in their raw state, and then expects that through innovation we would advance some of these things. So He created the tree, and from innovation man has created furnitures, right? But He created glass, and from that we have created all kinds of things. So that is how innovation works. Okay, and innovation works with what is called um, is it vertical now? Yeah. So this is horizontal thinking, right? It's horizontal thinking, right? So vertical thinking is like this, horizontal thinking is like this. So innovation works with horizontal thinking. What that means is that you take a seeming old idea and then build on it to become a new idea. That is what innovation is. You you work on a seemingly old idea, then build upon it to create something that comes out new and fresh. That is horizontal thinking, right? And almost every invention that has been built, right, came from that kind of thinking. There is nothing new under the sun, right? There is really nothing new under the sun. So whatever would be has been already. Okay. So people who created furniture can say they created something new, but really did they create something new? No. There has always been in existence the raw materials needed for the creation of these things. So you also need to be able to now look at what you are doing right now and see how you can improve on it. That's what I'm driving at. So you need to ask yourself, how can I and how would I improve on what it is I'm doing? This is a good time to innovate on the things that you have been doing before now. So how can I get my business better? How can I get my, improve on the job that I do? What new skill can I bring to it? What new idea can I bring to it to get it from point A to point B, whatever those points are for you, right? That is what innovation is, right? So insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result. So you need to be able to do things differently in this season, and this is the time for you to sit down and look at what you can do differently, how you can innovate on existing ideas, and from those existing ideas bring out something new, right? That can be a blessing to humanity. So you want to ask yourself that very important question tonight, right? But before the lockdown, I took a personal decision to bet a new product, at the end of the first 14 days, and I've started working on a lot of things already, right? New books, new courses, and new things like that, that will be rolling out soon. So can you also challenge yourself to bet a new product or a new service at this lockdown? Can you also challenge yourself to say, okay, these existing products that we already have in our business, in my job, right? How can I innovate on them? How can I improve on service delivery? How can I improve on all of these things to make sure that it becomes better, right? Every human soul is capable of innovation. The human soul was not created for stagnation. The human soul was created for progress. That is why technology and the advancement of it would never cease, right? Would never cease. There would keep being in an improvement in science and in technology, right? So what you do need to do is not to detest technology, but to embrace it and see how you can use it in the advancement of your own cause, right? There were people who condemned social media, for instance, who said social media was of the devil. But right now, without social media, you know, is almost as if you are non-existent, right? There are people who condemned television, right? But right now, almost all of them are using it. That is the cry and the hunger of the human soul. The cry of the human soul is always for progress and for innovation to get things better, right? So there was a time we used to use um analog computers. We used typewriters. Then we went to desktop computers, and now we have laptops. Now we move to uh, palm tops. Now we have smartphones, that are as good as computers. That is how innovative the human soul is. Before now, we used to have a lot of a lot of things that were in the analog generation, right? But people have deliberately improved on those things through innovation, right? And now we are where we are today, right? That is so that is what is expected of you as well. So would you be among those who criticize change? Would you be among those who are reluctant to accept change, or you would be among those who would accept, embrace, and facilitate change? It's always a choice that you have to make. The truth is that change is upon us. Change will keep being upon us. You have to go with the pace. You have to be very flexible in your mindset. And I want to end with this statement. Somebody said, when it comes to principles, be as solid as a rock. But when it comes to methods, be as flexible as the waves, right? When it comes to principles, be as solid as a rock. But when it comes to methods, be as flexible as the waves, right? Because methods will change, and you have to be flexible in your thinking. You have to be flexible in your thinking. Right now, for instance, Generation Z, um, uh, the Generation Z have about 75% share in the labor market, right? And if you don't understand, for instance, how Generation Z thinks and how they work, you might not be able to influence the next generation. It means that you might, if you're in business, you might just go with the last generation, and your business might just fold up in the coming years if you don't understand the Generation Z, how they think, and things like that. So it is very important that you are very flexible in your thinking. The oldest in Generation Z is just 23 years old. Yeah. We know we have had Generation X, Generation Y. Now we have Generation Z, right? We have millennials. That's where I fall. But there is a new generation called Generation Z that have 75% share in the labor market. They are the ones, they are they have 75% share, in your business, right? So they're the ones who will patronize your business. They're the ones who might take over your job if you're not careful. So you need to understand that no matter how old you are, these are things you need to study. These are things you want to start in looking at how to imbibe them even in your business, right? That is how to think in this 21st century. That is what you should think about today. That is what you should think about, in this lockdown and in this season. There is no better time to think on paper, to bring out your sheet of paper, to bring out your pen and innovate and brainstorm. It is very, very important. And I challenge you, yes, you, to do the same today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in on our 7 days challenge. Tomorrow is going to be the seventh and the final day of this challenge. I want to share this post. Tell me things that you've learned, and I'm always excited and happy to hear from you. Thank you very much for tuning in today, right? And don't forget that when it comes to principles, be as solid as a rock, but when it comes to methods, be as flexible as the waves. Don't forget to innovate and have hope for the future. I value you. Miracle Yohama is my name. Thank you for tuning in. I see you again tomorrow, 7 p.m. is the time. Invite your family and friends to join in. All right, have a wonderful day.
With 10,000 beside